Holy greetings to my brothers and sisters and fellow delegates of the General Assembly of the Church of God in Christ. It's good to be here. Several months have passed since our last gathering, but just consider 3 major historical episodes have transpired since that time. You shared in the first quadrennial election of the Church of God in Christ. That was not only a first for our church, but that was the first in our sector of Christendom. It was a landmark success and a glorious event. After the election, then there was the General Assembly session in April. That was a productive one-day event, and the business of the church was tended to. And then we came back in June for the quadrennial inauguration and installation of our elected officials. That was a hybrid because it was in person in Memphis and it was virtual for the world to witness that glorious sanctifying moment. And therefore, that was a hybrid event again for and by the General Assembly. 3 monumental meetings, and since that time, tons of work by General Assembly committees and officers have continued. And so I'm going to tell you what you already know. We have been abundantly blessed by the blesser, Almighty God. Okay, what's next? Let's start out with the General Convocation. You are aware by now that the Presidium has announced that the annual Holy Convocation is scheduled for November the 10th through the 14th. That convocation will not be in person, but virtual. You see, not until the presiding bishop had made public the announcement about the status of the convocation, the date, and the venue, only then could the chairman of the General Assembly properly announce the status of the General Assembly. And therefore, 2 letters have been circulated and distributed via email to all of our delegates, because I do not want one single delegate to be left behind or to be uninformed. Now, I'm aware that some would have preferred that the General Assembly would have met in person to approve the virtual environment. That simply would not be practical. We would have to come together to discuss how we would come together. Not doable. But since the determination of the Presidium and the health officers of the church at that time persuaded them that it would not be in the interest of the safety of the delegates to travel to Tennessee for the convocation, it only seems reasonable that we honor the expertise and wisdom of those that have such a role in our church. And therefore, we will have accordingly a virtual General Assembly. Registration. Registration has been fraught with several glitches. That happens in global technological systems, and ARC has had several challenges. I think we should commend the Office of the General Secretary and his staff, Bishop Lyles, and the Office of the Financial Secretary, Bishop White, and his staff, as they have worked tediously to resolve all of the glitches in registration on the ARC system. If you have not registered, please hasten to do that. And therefore, registration is so important. That is the only vehicle we have in a virtual setting for certifying the delegates of that assembly house. Please double check with your jurisdictional secretary, your jurisdictional bishop, the Office of the General Secretary, to be sure that there are no encumbrances regarding your registration. Next, the agenda. In every General Assembly session, there has always been an intense, timely, relevant, spirited, and instructive session, an instructive agenda. The November session will be no exception. There will be the report from the General Board and our presiding bishop, J. Drew Sheard. There will be a report from the Trustee Board, chaired by Bishop Dwight Walls. There will be a report from the 10-Year Strategic Plan Committee. That committee is a collaboration of the General Board and the General Assembly, and they will give an update that will be most instructive. So Bishop Matt Brown and that committee are preparing for such a report. Other committee reports will include Bishop Maynard, our vice chairman, on the Finance and Budget Review Committee, Elder McCarthy, and the special recognition of community servants across the brotherhood. There will be an approval decision by the General Assembly on bishop designees impacting the episcopacy. There'll be an update on our missions globally and our work around the world. Resolutions of urgent matters will be presented by Bishop Knight and the Resolutions Committee. There will be subsidiary reports that will be presented to the General Assembly of our subsidiaries. The calendar of events for the entire year of 2022 will be presented for approval by the General Assembly. Special investigations on disciplinary matters will be presented by Sister Ellis and the Investigation Committee. Of significant importance is the General Board selection election. The ultimate passing of the revered Bishop Lauren Mann has left a vacancy on the General Board. So the Constitution requires that the General Assembly will fill the single seat vacancy at this session by selection or election. The appropriate committees have prepared for that task in this session. These and other matters will be high on the agenda for this General Assembly session. Wanted you to be clear. This is not a session that you want to miss. This is your church, this is your assembly, and this is your opportunity to engage and be informed about your church. Now I'd like for you to hear some insights from persons that will be presenting in the General Assembly.
Praise the Lord, saints. To Chairman Thuston, Vice Chairman Maynard, and to you, the General Assembly, which is comprised of everyone, good evening. What a joy it is for me to be part of this General Assembly presentation. I am Judge Paula D. Ellis, and I'm honored to serve as the chair of the Judicial Investigating Council. Some of you might not even be aware of our committee, and in the past, during our General Assembly sessions, you might not have had the opportunity to hear from our committee. But I'm here to tell you, we are a valuable and very important committee in the General Assembly, and we do function in season and out of season. Because of the nature of this committee, of the sensitive subject matters, and the confidentiality that is required, we cannot and do not discuss any past, current, or future cases that have or will come before us. So what is this committee? The Judicial Investigating Council or Committee of the General Assembly of the Church of God in Christ is responsible for investigating all official complaints against general board members and national officers of the Church of God in Christ. The council also hears official complaints against members of the Judiciary Board. There is a process in place for the filing of complaints. However, any filed complaint can only be heard by our council or committee if the complaint is referred to us by the General Assembly Chairman. Upon receipt of the referred complaint, we start an investigation. After the process has been fully completed on our end, we submit a report to the General Assembly Chairman related to our findings. I'm so grateful to serve with persons who make up this committee and who abide by the rules and regulations associated with it. Our policies and procedures that we have in place explain the type of members that make up this committee or council. The members of the council shall possess neither bias nor prejudice for or against any litigant. The members should not be easily pressured, intimidated, or influenced by others. Shall be willing to sign an oath of confidentiality and conflict of interest statement, and shall be willing to participate in a process that handles all matters with integrity, fairness, and impartiality. Most importantly, a committee member must be saved and filled with the Holy Ghost. Thank you again for allowing me to tell you about the Judicial Investigating Council. It is indeed a pleasure to serve God's church and God's people.
Hello, I am Mother Mildred Coby. I am the Secretary for the General Assembly Committee on Standards and Extensions, and it is an honor to be here to share during this time that we call chat with the chairman. Thank you, Chairman L.F. Thuston, for this opportunity to be able to share. I'm going to share on behalf of this committee as secretary a high level, if you will, just a synopsis of this committee and the work that we do. The Standards and Extensions Committee is a very vital committee that is paramount to the success of our church at large, I believe, because it is a fact and finding group that is unbiased in its practices, and we have standards and extensions that are applicable to our church as it relates to jurisdictions. You can see Part 2, Section C, Subsection 2 under jurisdictional assemblies, where it speaks to in a case that there is a transition in leadership of a already existing jurisdiction with less than 30 churches, then the matter is referred to this committee to look into the sustainability of the jurisdiction and to bring back facts and findings and to make a recommendation to you, the body, on where we see the jurisdiction is based on our investigations. Also, when there is a group that has petitioned for new formation and they have 30 churches, then that is referred to this group as well to do the same investigation process. And those of you who need a copy of the processes, policy and procedures for the standards and extensions, you are welcome to obtain a copy. I believe they are online. We shared them about 4 years ago in General Assembly, and there are updates to follow. So we want you to please have a copy of that so that you can familiarize yourself. Also, the committee is very critical in that I stated before that we do unbiased investigations, and I believe that going forward, and is the belief of this committee, that as we grow as the body and we see times are changing, it is important to have a group that is representing the people, the General Assembly Committee on Standards and Extensions, so that we produce an unbiased and ethical information to you all, so that you have facts and findings, and you have the authority constitutionally mandated to vote the matters up or down churches. Then the matter is referred to this committee to look into the sustainability of the jurisdiction and to bring back facts and findings and to make a recommendation to you, the body, on where we see the jurisdiction is based on our investigations. Also, when there is a group that has petitioned for new formation and they have 30 churches, then that is referred to this group as well to do the same investigation process. And those of you who need a copy of the processes, policy and procedures for the standards and extensions, you are welcome to obtain a copy. I believe they are online. We shared them about 4 years ago in General Assembly, and there are updates to follow. So we want you to please have a copy of that so that you can familiarize yourself. Also, the committee is very critical in that I stated before that we do unbiased investigations, and I believe that going forward, and is the belief of this committee, that as we grow as the body and we see times are changing, it is important to have a group that is representing the people, the General Assembly Committee on Standards and Extensions, so that we produce an unbiased and ethical information to you all, so that you have facts and findings, and you have the authority constitutionally mandated to vote the matters up or down in our General Assembly sessions. So we really we're your fact-finding group. We bring you the information so that you can see the whole picture of a particular jurisdictional information, and that we share with you. I would like to say that again, as we move forward, our church, future, present, and even past, that it is going to be very critical and important to us, as we've seen, that we have unbiased groups that, or committees, I should say, that work within the General Assembly to produce information for you, to help you to better understand the picture of matters that are presented. So we are excited, and I believe we're going to see great growth in the church. This committee has grown extremely under the leadership of Bishop Ellis Thuston, and we've seen the whole General Assembly at large come into a place that I believe that the church can be very proud of. So thank you for this time, Bishop Thuston, and thank you, General Assembly body, for allowing me to share on behalf of the General Assembly Committee on Standards and Extensions. Thank you.
The Constitution Committee is a standing committee of the Church of God in Christ. All committee members must be active delegates in the General Assembly. They must be endorsed by their jurisdictional bishop, recommended by the Constitution Committee chair, and finally approved by the chair of the General Assembly, who is our Honorable Bishop Thuston. The established Constitution Committee articulates the codified body of the fundamental and established principles that govern the Church of God in Christ Incorporated. The committee, as directed by the General Assembly Chair, evaluates constitutional and extra-constitutional items for official action. All Constitution Committee members actively participate in their local General Assembly and are appointed to the National General Assembly upon the endorsement of the Chair of the General Assembly and the Constitution Committee Chair itself. Meetings occur during and between scheduled meetings of the General Assembly, which normally meets twice a year. This committee, standing committee, endorses, supports, and undergirds the structure of our church. I'm Dr. Bernadette Jeffrey. I'm Secretary of the Constitution Committee. God bless you.
God bless you. Hello. My name is Superintendent Gerald L. Johnson. I'm so honored to serve our national church in the capacity of chairman of the Credentials Committee for the General Assembly. The General Assembly Credentials Committee is responsible for the certifying of the House to be able to conduct the business of our national church. Along with certifying the House comes the responsibility of ensuring that a delegate who has had problems in registration be able to be processed for registration through the appeals process. I'm so honored that during these unprecedented times, we were able to yet work through that appeal process through Zoom and other means. I'm so excited about the direction of our church. And we join in the chorus with our presiding bishop, Bishop J. Drew Shear, and the rest of the Church of God in Christ. We love our church. We're excited about what is happening and what is going on. I'm delighted to serve you in the capacity of chairman of the General Assembly Credentials Committee. I'm so grateful for the committee members who serve alongside with me. Our Vice Chairman, Pastor Matthew Spencer. Our Secretary, Pastor Orlando Hill.
Good evening to the General Assembly Chairman, Bishop L.F. Thuston, Bishop Jerry Maynard, the Vice Chairman of the General Assembly. Respect to the presiding Bishop J. Drew Shear, Bishop Macklin, Bishop Wooten, and members of the Presidium of our church. I am Kevin E. Knight Sr. from New Jersey, and what a privilege it is to serve as chairman of the Resolution Committee. We are appointed by the General Assembly Chairman, and our committee, our team, as seen on the screen, reflects different states and jurisdictions throughout the country. In summary, the main purpose of the Resolution Committee is to prepare resolutions for action on subjects of great importance to our church. We then annotate them in a formal language and present to the delegates of the General Assembly. We have discovered that this process serves to establish the position of matters of significance, and in doing so, it provides a democratic, orderly process for bringing issues to the attention of the representing members of the Church of God in Christ during our General Assembly. In tandem with the General Assembly Chairman, this committee prepares resolutions when directed by the Chairman and will receive suggestions or resolutions from any GA member or departments of our church to be read at the assembly during our regular sessions. Also, proposed amendments of policies to the Constitution, bylaws, can be sent to this committee to organize and present at our General Assembly. Resolutions then clearly define what elected, appointed officials, jurisdictions, districts, and the local church and its lay members should or shouldn't do within the organization. For more information, please feel free to contact the Office of the General Assembly World Headquarters. That information is there on the screen, or you can email the Resolution Committee at resolutioncommittee@cogic.org. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving us this time to share with our church. Until we meet again, God bless you and stay informed.
Greetings, beloved saints. I'm Dr. Mike Neal. I'm the chairman of the Technology, Logistics, and Operations Committee for the General Assembly of the Church of God in Christ. The role of our committee is to ensure a timely, effective, and efficient virtual General Assembly and election. We accomplish this through project management and through the use of hardware, software, and services for both data and audiovisual content. More specifically, we are tasked with, among other things, vendor selection and vetting, contracts for services and negotiations, integration of tools, resources, and vendors, submission to the budget and finance processes of the church, development of oversight of the delegate support system and its staff, communication, education, and training for General Assembly staff and delegates, to closely liaison with the General Secretary and department heads, the development and implementation of a virtual election process, and to plan and facilitate live video production and on-site operation. The outcomes of the Technology, Education, Logistics, and Operations Committee are a successful virtual General Assembly and an election process where the delegates are able to effectively exercise their right and privilege to determine the polity, priorities, and processes of the Church of God in Christ. We are most grateful for the leadership of this great church, and especially for the presiding bishop, J. Drew Sheard, and for the chairman of the General Assembly of the Church of God in Christ, the Bishop Lemuel F. Thuston. Blessings of peace, protection, provision, and great joy unto you and your household. I am Dr. Mike Neal from Illinois 6th, and I am your servant. On behalf of myself, my Vice Chair and Productions Director, Minister Stanley Meeks, our Communications Director, Asia Jones, our Secretary, Elder Claudel Williams Jr., and our Director of Delegate Services, Deacon Lee Gibbs, we thank the Chairman of the General Assembly for the opportunity to serve you. God bless you, and God keep you.
Greetings, Bishop L.F. Thuston, Chairman of the General Assembly, and to the Bishop Jerry L. Maynard, Vice Chairman of the General Assembly. The significance and the relationship of the office of the General Secretary to the General Assembly is defined and outlined in the Constitution of the Church of God in Christ. The General Secretary, under the direction of the Chairman of the General Assembly, prepares and distributes the agenda for the sessions of General Assembly sessions. The Office of General Secretary also sends official notifications of dates, times, and locations of the sessions. The Office of the General Secretary provides a system for the registration of delegates to the General Assembly and, per the Constitution, issues certificates of election. We record the minutes of the General Assembly sessions and distribute electronically to the delegates. The Office of General Secretary also assists with the logistical and administrative operations of the General Assembly and the infamous statement of the Church of God in Christ of the duties as assigned by the Chairman of the General Assembly. It's an honor and privilege to serve in the office of the General Assembly and to serve as the General Secretary. It is an honor to serve with our Chairman and our Vice Chairman, and it's also an honor to serve with our presiding bishop. I pray God's choice blessings be upon our General Assembly session as well as upon our church. God bless you.
Thank you for those committee reports. Now you know they're serious and they are urgent. You want to hear more about those matters in the General Assembly. If you haven't already done so, please feel free to post in the comment section your questions and comments. I take great pride in this chat environment where I can speak to you and you can respond. And if you will post any question or comment that you have, I will try to get back with you with a useful answer. I look forward to updating you with any matters that will be necessary between now and the General Assembly, and we look forward to a productive and meaningful session of the Lord's people in November